This afternoon, I am in the city of Houston, Texas, actually sitting in the office of the director of the Harris County Law Library, Mariann Sears, who has been in that position since February of 2012. Mariann, I appreciate you allowing me to come here this afternoon, and I've been promised a tour of the library, which I want to see it. I lived here for 3 years, but didn't get this far in my visiting the neighbors at that time. So this will be an opportunity I've been looking forward to for a while. I was also appreciative of the fact that the trial courts are basically in another building, and we didn't have to get the case full of cameras and other gear that I drag around in doing these things. Unlike a few other courthouses where I've gone in to talk to the librarian. And the local security people always get very nervous when somebody comes in with something this size and massive. And usually my colleague has to come to the security station and vouch me in.
Exactly. Well, we do what we can to make it easy.
Well, you made it really easy. Yeah, the court's in another building. Good. Well, we probably better get on to business. It's our custom to sort of present the person with whom I'm speaking in sort of a human fashion, talk about them as individuals, as real people. Could you help us out there by perhaps describing a little bit about yourself? What's life like maybe today? Also, perhaps even when you were young.
Be happy to. I was born in Akron, Ohio, and grew up in a small town north of Akron called Stowe. Mm-hmm. And Stowe's other claim to fame, besides being my hometown, is that it's the hometown of Larry Zonka, the Hall of Fame running back for the Miami Dolphins during their heyday.
Yes, I do recognize that name.
Yes. Mm-hmm. He went to the same high school I went to, and I never knew him. He's probably 10 years older than I am, but that's our claim to fame.
Well, why not?
And why not?
Take it if you have it.
Exactly. And I grew up in Stowe, and I'm the middle child of German immigrants. Mm-hmm. So my older brother and my younger sister and I are all first-generation Americans. Mm-hmm. And we spoke German in our home. Mm. And I didn't really learn English very well until I went to kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And growing up, all the way through our teenage years, we participated in German American cultural events, mm-hmm. including folk dancing and singing of German songs and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then after high school, I went to Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, graduated there in 1979. Mm-hmm. And it was a great school. It was known then, and it is known now as a party school. I did not partake in the partying.
They usually have a pretty good academic program at those alleged party schools, too, for the serious students.
Exactly, and I've gotten a wonderful education there. And then from there, because there were no jobs after graduation, my husband and I moved from the Rust Belt to Houston, and I entered law school in 1980 and graduated in 1983, and the rest is history. Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like you found your niche, because here we are sitting in the middle of a very vibrant and interesting city that Houston, Texas is and has been for a long time. It was always interesting when I was here for 3 years, back at the very beginning of my career, and I watched the city grow, and it was exciting to be part of it, and I'm sure that's been the case ever since.
It has, and in fact, I think Houston, in comparison to other large Texas cities, I think mm-hmm. Houston is cosmopolitan, mm-hmm. diverse, welcoming. There are a bunch of risk takers here.
Yeah, I found that even 45 years or so
Mhm.
back. It was a lot of people had come from other places.
Exactly.
And one thing, as a new person, and I was single the first year, it was easy to make friends.
Yeah, this is really a welcoming and opening community, and I enjoy living here.
Mhm. Well, in addition to being a tried and true Texan today, maybe you're not, but I'll call you that.
I got here as quick as I could.
Do you have any hobbies or special interests or other passions that occupy time if you have any outside of work?
Yes, my husband and I own a second home in Crested Butte, Colorado, and the picture behind me is a depiction of the mountain, Mount Crested Butte, and we
Okay.
try to go as often as we can, not nearly as often as we'd like. We used to ski in the winters, then I blew out my knee and I don't ski anymore. So now we go mostly in the summers, and the summers are absolutely glorious. And we hike, I read, I basically recharge. And the plan is to retire to Crested Butte. We'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm looking at the picture behind you, and I'll actually make a shot of it after we've finished today's conversation, and I'll figure out how I can edit it in so that all the viewers can see it head up, because it's only part of it shows on the screen. I know you've mentioned at least 2 degrees now, but you have 3, I believe.
I
Could you
do.
tell us what's missing in the equation?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. I received my AB in 1979 from Ohio University, and then my JD from the University of Houston College of Law, as it was then known, in 1983. And then in 1997, I received my MLS degree from the University of North Texas.
Okay.
Our program was entirely held here in Houston. And
That's nice.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It was Saturdays, five years out of my life,
Well,
every
that's
Saturday.
That's not so nice, but it was effective. It
Yes.
got you what you wanted. the
Exactly,
credential.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you earned your law degree at UH, University of Houston, and then you, moving into your career, you took a position as an attorney for the Court of Appeals here in Houston. And later you were with the law firm of Andrews and, is it Kurth?
That's correct, Andrews
Yeah,
Kurth.
Kurth.
Mhm.
Could you tell us a little bit about that era in your professional life, and perhaps some of the things you learned or were able to accomplish in one or more in
Sure.
both of those jobs?
After the bar exam, I took a year off to care for my newborn daughter. And then in 1985, I took a position as a briefing attorney with the 14th Court of Appeals. And I absolutely loved it because it honed the research skills that I showed a particular proclivity for in law school. And the experience was really amazing because I was able to witness the various demeanors, and they ranged all over the board of the judges on the Court of Appeals. And it was a grand time. Unfortunately, it was only for a short time because the terms for briefing attorneys were fixed. So when my term ended, the judge that I was clerking for, Justice Mariann Sears, and I began a dating relationship, and we married in 1987, and will be celebrating our 29th anniversary.
Well,
this summer.
congratulations.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes. But that's not really about my career, so let's move on.
Well, that came after your career, but it's a result of your career
Exactly.
in a sense, yes.
It is. It
Yeah.
truly is. It
Maybe you
truly
would have
is.
met your husband some other way, but it helped to be working at the court.
It's all about timing, I suppose. So then, after my clerkship with the Court of Appeals, I moved on to Andrews Kurth, and there I worked with a group of litigation attorneys who were defending tobacco companies
Oh,
against individuals who had contracted lung cancer. It was interesting work, but I really didn't see how I was helping anything or anyone. So eventually I moved on to the appellate practice section of the firm. And there again, I was able to really hone my research and writing skills and thoroughly enjoyed that. And during that time, I was also going to library school while I was practicing at Andrews Kurth. So, and while I was at Andrews Kurth, I also was able to get a glimpse of what a large firm law library looks like and how it's managed. Nano Sharib, the library manager at Andrews Kurth, is now retired, was an excellent law librarian, and she and I became fast friends. So it was a great experience.
Well, with that sort of as an introduction, I was going to ask you what exactly, here you've been out in the real world practice, you've been working with the court. What attracted you to our little niche of the legal profession?
It's an interesting kind of story. My husband, Judge Sears, while I was at Andrews Kurth, took senior status and announced that he was retiring. And we had discussed moving out of state. That never transpired, but the discussion got me thinking, okay, I have some options here. I was not ready to leave the workforce, so I had to weigh whether I wanted to take another bar exam and practice in another state, or find another career that was more easily transportable from place to place. And law librarianship seemed to fit the bill, and I went with it, and I haven't looked back, and I have loved every moment.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I too shared that same exact experience.
Is
and
that
maybe
right?
not getting into it the same way, but the fact that I loved it, and all the people I talked to say that it's been a wonderful way to earn a living.
It was the best decision I've ever made.
Now, did anyone particularly maybe play a role in that regard, of helping to recruit you in, or to
Sure.
put it a little different way, maybe right afterwards, as a mentor type of person?
Yeah, aside from Nano, there at Andrews Kurth, interestingly, even before, while I was still in law school, at the time she didn't know it, but Roberta Schaefer, who is now the interim law librarian of Congress, was a recent graduate of Tulane and took a position in the University of Houston Law Library. And she was my first research and writing instructor. And the fact that she had a JD and was a law librarian piqued my interest. I didn't really start thinking about it until the mid-1990s. But I think that was the first time that I thought, you know, if I really don't want to practice, here's something else that I can do that I'd be good at. And here's an example of someone who did the same thing and is good at it. So Roberta was...
She certainly is.
Yes, she is. I've since told the story to her, and so now she knows that she was my mentor back then. But other people...
If she missed the story, I can alert her through the grapevine that she ought to look at this video when it's online.
Please do.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Roberta in quite some time. She was here at a hall meeting several years ago, and I haven't seen her since, so it'd be great.
We want to include her in the oral history, but she seems to have a day job where that's a little bit problematic, and now she's got another one just like it.
I know. So yeah, well, I hope you do have a chance to speak with her. She's a marvelous.
She'd tell a wonderful story,
Yes.
I'm sure. Exactly what we want to get is getting today here.
Oh, thank you. Other mentors, as I was going through library school and through my law library career, include folks that you'll recognize: the Jane Holland of Fulbright, Susan Yancey, Vincent Elkins, Margot Davis, of Andrews Kurth, now of Andrews Kurth. All of these women had a huge impact, whether they know it or not, on the way that I learned law librarianship, and they are tremendous sounding boards for lunchtime companions and sounding boards, and they really have been my mentors. So.
You certainly had some very good choices available locally.
Yes.
And that's not always the case.
I feel
for some
very
people.
fortunate.
Yeah. But Houston, when I was here, there weren't too many law librarians in the city at that time. But the profession was changing and developing because the practices had started to expand both in size of firms and in scope of what they needed to have. And so they began to have new needs for library support that eventually morphed into support by librarians as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So times have changed. You had some very fine people in this city, and still do.
Yeah.
I met a bunch of them yesterday, including yourself at the luncheon of the Hall group. Yeah.
I'm grateful. I really am, and I realize how lucky I am.
Well, you could have started off perhaps in some places that was like Houston was when I was here. There weren't too many librarians.
That's right.
Law librarians. Yeah. Oh well. Now you actually have had several jobs in the field. You want to tell us about some of those, perhaps in some sort of chronological order?
You bet. I graduated in 1997 from UNT and went immediately from practicing law at Andrews Kurth to managing the law library at a smallish firm here in Houston, Brown, Parker, and Leahy. And my experience there, I was the librarian, and my experience there was absolutely amazing. The firm was unique in that it was the perfect size to be able to live up to its goals, its corporate, if you will, goals and values. It was incredibly well managed. The attorneys, it didn't matter if you were a staff member or an attorney at the firm, everyone was welcome to participate and to provide feedback and input into how the firm was run. And that's what made it really unique. Also, because I had practiced for about 15 years, I was able to use those skills, and they took advantage of that. I was able to use those skills and my new law librarian skills to really assist the attorneys in their practices. So I was grateful for the opportunity. Then, about a year and a half after I arrived at Brown, Parker, and Leahy, they merged with the larger Thompson & Knight, a Dallas-based firm. And I continued to manage the Houston library until the firm's director of libraries took another position. And then I was promoted. And at Thompson & Knight,
Firm-wide manager.
Yes.
All the libraries.
yes, and there was quite an expansion during this time.
Yeah.
A New York office, offices overseas in Mexico and Brazil. And so I was able
So
to...
your library responsibilities were growing like topsy, I think is the word.
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But this is where I learned to basically cut my law library teeth. This is where I learned to manage a budget. This is where I learned to manage a staff. This is where I learned to negotiate with vendors. This is where I learned that networking with colleagues was invaluable. So my 13 years at Thompson & Knight, 13 and a half years at Thompson & Knight was really the highlight so far of my law library career, because it's really where I learned to be the kind of manager that I am now. And so I'm grateful for that. Then, after my time at Thompson and Knight ended, I went to Greenberg Traurig as the firm-wide research services manager. And that was I stayed only for a year, and it was a very interesting position. It was unique in that I was called upon to manage the firm's researchers who were far-flung. They were on every corner of the country and in every time zone. And I was in Houston. So this was a virtual management position. And just as I was getting my brain wrapped around that and beginning to understand the complexities of that, the position here at Harris County opened. And I had already spent a good 15 years helping private sector attorneys do what they do. I thought it was now the perfect opportunity for me to help others who had a greater need than perhaps the private firm attorneys. So I took the leap into public service. And
So that was around February 2012.
that is correct.
Yeah.
And have really not. I can't tell you. This position is the one that I am enjoying the most. Really am.
Well, it's a nice career move in all the right senses of the term then. 'Cause
It is.
You like it and are doing well. And you've got some good people. I met
Excellent
a couple of them
people.
yesterday at the hall meeting, and I've known a little bit about some of them and their reputations too.
Yeah, and I've been since the Harris County Law Library in 2011 became a part of the county attorney's office,
Okay.
and it hadn't had a director since John Eichstad's retirement in 2011. So it was over a year since it had a director. So I was coming in. I was trying to right a ship that was afloat, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's a good fit. It's a very good fit. I'm enjoying myself tremendously.
So they're under the Attorney General,
County attorney.
County Attorney General, or County Attorney.
County
I guess.
Attorney.
The Attorney General is more up in Austin at the state level.
That's
I
right.
suppose.
And I understand they had, or maybe still do, have a library. I'm not certain, but
Well, there was a Texas State Library for a while.
There
up
is
right?
still.
Is that still okay?
Mhm.
Because that was established again by the time I was in Texas a long time ago.
yes.
Mariann was the inaugural director of that. She had been Roy Mirsky's chief assistant at Tarleton at the University of Texas.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, the Texas State Law Library is still viable, and it's a great law library.
I would imagine as a county librarian you would interact with people at the state library level, at least on occasion, and
We do,
perhaps collaborate
And we
in
do.
other ways as well.
and we do, and with other county law libraries. So it's a nice community.
Yeah. Well, Texas certainly is a big state and very diverse.
It
and
is.
They must have quite a few of these libraries, and some of them would be pretty good-sized operations, I would guess.
Yes, the Travis County Law Library is an excellent example of what all of us aspire to with the service that they offer to the self-represented. And there are other county law libraries. Denton County has a law library that is excellent, as does Grayson County, smaller counties, and of course Dallas County and Tarrant County and so forth. So yeah, it's an interesting community.
Now, I don't know if this is still the case, but when, again, back in my salad days when I was here, my boss and I would go up to Austin for various reasons, and one time we were up there talking to the clerk at the state Supreme Court and asked a question. There is court cases always have docket numbers to keep everything straight, even in the old days. And they had a series of docket cases that started off with OC and then the number. And most of the docket cases didn't have OC, but these did. And we asked, what was it about this set of docket numbers? And we were told that OC stands for our clients, being the pro se's and others who were not really represented competently by counsel. And the court would assign its own staff attorneys and clerks to sort of flesh out the argument, so it would give them a full hearing.
That's
And-
fascinating.
And I don't know if they even still have that,
I'm
that
not
series, but you're doing somewhat the same thing at the trial level here.
We are, and the Supreme Court is still heavily involved in pro bono and access to justice initiatives.
Yeah, they were very serious about doing the right thing and not just falling back
That
on
is correct.
the technical rules. And if somebody had the misfortune to have to represent himself or herself, they were totally on their own. In their case, it wasn't.
That's right. And in fact, our current Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice Nathan Hecht, was, we felt so privileged. He was here for our centennial celebration and delivered an astonishing and remarkable speech about access to justice, and so appreciative that he was here and basically helping us fulfill our mission, which is promoting open and equal access to justice for all.
Well, the access to this building, you and I both drove into the parking garage and nobody checked any of us, but I've had to pass muster at security at time and again at courthouses with all this gear. And but this is not a courthouse.
No.
It's the county
County
attorney.
Attorney's Office. Although, in a prior lifetime, there were courthouses here. On the 15th and 16th floor, now where the County Attorney's offices are, there were courthouses, and I remember practicing in these courthouses.
Well, now you don't have to be quite as careful, I guess, as
Yes.
once was. Although I do understand you still have security of sorts.
Yes,
around
we
here.
do.
Actually, pretty good security.
Yes.
But they don't frisk everyone at the front door anymore.
No, like all large cities, the downtown area has elements that sometimes require extra attention. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the security that we have.
Good. Well, that ought to be putting it carefully enough that I don't have to clip this part. Get us in trouble.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, you've had an interesting career, but you've also gone out beyond the library walls, and you've been involved professionally in ALL. You're a member of that Special Libraries Association, I understand. I've seen that. And of course, Hall, the Houston area law librarians,
Yes.
where we met each other yesterday
That
when
is
I was foolishly by the incoming president, who also works here at the Harris County
Yes,
Law
he does.
Library, invited to address the group. I figured maybe it was a slow month.
No, we so enjoyed your remarks.
Oh, thank you. I very much enjoyed being able to tell the group a little bit about this project, which was the focus and sort of the profession as I've seen it evolve, and it continues to evolve, and it's a lot of fun. But you've been on advisory boards
Yes.
of Alexis and West. I mean, not, I would say, well, sure, the usual stuff, but that isn't the usual stuff. You've done more than a lot of people. And you want to talk a little bit about some of your professional involvement, and maybe even more importantly, why it's a priority in your life, because you must have other things to keep you good and busy.
Yeah, I do. But it is a priority because I'm remembering all of the people who mentored me when I was coming up. And I think to make, if librarianship, law librarianship is a profession, then the professionals have to give back. And that's what I'm doing. I am offering my mentorship to whoever wants to come up behind me and take it. So it's been a real privilege. the advisory boards with the vendors, they were very interesting because the input that we provided really made a difference. And I appreciated that. And one of the other things that I believe, perhaps less than private law believes, relationships are everything. It's not, for me, if you continue to develop relationships, profits follow. So I focus on maintaining and nurturing relationships, knowing that good things, not necessarily profit, but good things will follow from that. So,
Well, in your current sector, profit is not the motivation that it perhaps once was. But
Exactly.
it certainly is with our vendors. I mean,
Yes.
they're, businesses that people are looking to be supported by, as owners and workers and executives, and so it's got to make some money in order to meet those needs.
exactly.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you work with both companies. In the old days,
Yes.
it may have been more one or the other, as
True.
you've been permanently barred, but things must have evolved beyond that era of more paranoia.
I think so, the law firms that I worked with were fortunate to be able to offer both services to their attorneys, so that it wasn't, so that it was more of a preference. If the attorney had a preference for one or the other, he or she could go to that service, and it's not the case anymore. Now it's more we have to pick one.
Well, that's fiscal reality.
It is. It is.
I was faced potentially with that question when I was still active. There were some budget reductions coming, or we thought, and it was possible that we'd have to make a choice. And I was fortunate I didn't have to do that.
Yes.
But it's not easy.
It isn't. And I haven't had to make the choice here at the Harris County Law Library either. We offer Westlaw Next for patrons free of charge, and Lexis Advance for patrons free of charge.
It's a nice service.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the main dilemmas as I was getting into the latter part of my active career, was how we could meet the needs of those who would come to the law library and did not come under the big contracts that we did have with West and Lexis. And that included faculty, colleagues from
Sure.
elsewhere on campus, students from other programs, as well as the practitioners and members of the public.
Sure.
And it was a dilemma. In the old days, we had books, and anybody who came in the place could open one of those and read it.
Yep.
But now with the new licensing agreements and digital materials, that needed to be rethought.
It did. Yeah. And we're very lucky to be able to offer both of the services to our patrons, as well as all the print resources that you could imagine. Our library has somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 volumes, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon, because our patrons are, as you can imagine, 85% of our patrons are self-represented. Many are indigent or low-income patients or patrons. They don't have access to electronic computers or any of the technologies that are available. So we will continue to maintain a print collection.
Imagine even with the arrangements you have for access to some of the databases, a lot of these folks would lack the skills.
And that's why we offer training sessions. In fact, next week we're having a Westlaw Next training session on criminal law resources. So one of our missions is to offer training to those patrons so that they understand how to access legal information. And so we're doing that in brand new space. Our county attorney has built out the lower level below us to have a large conference center. And when we're through, I'll take you on a tour and show that
Oh,
to
I'm
you
looking
as well.
forward to seeing that in addition to seeing the library
Yes.
itself.
And in addition to that, they were gracious enough to set aside office space for the Houston Volunteer Lawyers,
Oh,
who have an information booth currently at the Civil Courts building a few blocks away. Of course, they refer their clients to us for further assistance. But now they'll have office space immediately below us, so the access to justice and legal information is even closer and at their fingertips. So we're very pleased about that.
so I'm assuming these don't fully represent these people all the way through, so they're sort of a get them started kind of thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then there is no attorney-client relationship, so it's a hybrid. They show them around, they show them the paths, but then they can't offer legal advice as we cannot.
Yeah.
So basically, we're offering them the directions to how you get from here to there.
Okay, but they are attorneys by
They are.
by licensure and background.
They are.
Yeah. I have a daughter and son-in-law who did this as legal aid attorneys for
Yes.
a number of years, and they felt very good about some of the things they accomplished. I'm
Yes.
sure others were taking pot shots at the program because of what they were accomplishing.
yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like this is a step sort of in that direction, but not nearly the whole step.
No, it isn't, but it is, the partnership that we have with the Houston Volunteer Lawyers is one that I'm very proud of.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, now, I don't get to talk about this aspect of things very often when I talk to a county librarian or even often a law firm librarian, but you have actually written a little bit. You're a little bit of scholarship on the side too.
Yes.
Particularly, I remember a book, a chapter in a book about how to manage a law firm library.
Right.
Somehow you must have had some expertise. You want to talk a little bit about that
Sure.
aspect of your work?
I was really flattered to be asked to write the chapter in that how-to manual, how to basically manage a law firm library. And it for me, it wasn't terribly time-consuming. I knocked it out, and for me it was another way to give back, another way to say thank you to the mentors who had mentored me, and to offer my mentorship to those who might follow me. So it was a labor of love.
It was still a labor. I'm sure.
It really wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
It really wasn't too bad. We were given specific step-by-step instructions. Basically, they set out the chapters in question-answer format. They posited a question, and we answered that question, and then they edited our answers into a narrative that became the chapter of the book. So it was worth it. It was a lot of fun. I
Sounds
enjoyed
like
it.
a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
I imagine you, over the years, had learned a lot. I mean, the experience of the type of libraries and how they evolved from sort of local to international is and big is would make you a natural, I would think.
Yeah, I had a wonderful
imparting
time.
that knowledge.
I had a wonderful time. I have a bit of a reputation, maybe not all that well known, but a bit of a reputation as a decent negotiator. So
Nothing wrong with that.
So I think maybe my reputation for negotiation preceded me with the folks at
Now, we'll put this negotiation reputation to the test when I walk through here and check to see if we have gold faucets in the men's room.
We do not.
Oh, you don't? You didn't negotiate those?
No.
Well, maybe a few other things that you really needed. Well, you know, Mariann, we're probably nearing the end of today's conversation, but I like to ask as we get to about this point, is there anything we haven't talked about that you would like to bring up?
I would just like to say thank you to you and to Michelle Wu, and to Frank Kodak, and to the others involved in this project. And I appreciate your taking your time to come visit with me, and am grateful. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for that. It's my role to thank you for being part of this, because you've contributed a lot to our discussion today, and it'll be a very useful part of the overall oral history. And I always thank you on behalf of our colleagues, but you already thanked them, so I won't need to do that, except Dick Spinelli.
Dick
You
Spinelli,
didn't
please
mention
tell
him.
Ike he was on my notes.
He's the sleeper in the group. I mean, it's Michelle and Frank and I who have been asked to go about this project, but Dick is
He's a great
very,
guy.
very helpful. He has to take a slightly different role because he used to be, vice president of the company, but and this is they want us to feel that we're independent, and for the right reasons, and it's been nice. So on everybody's behalf, we thank each other.
Yes, and please give Dick my regards.
I will. In
Please.
fact, I will send him tonight, as I do when I'm on one of these trips, a little update on that I did such and such today in terms of conversations, and he likes to know that.
Very good.
Thank you.